Hey, this is Barry. This is Extraordinary Stories podcast, and this is something slightly different. A story in parts. Welcome to The Body on the Beach, Part 2, Annie. Annie Borjesson tried to withdraw money from a cash machine in Glasgow Central Station on Saturday, the 3rd of December 2005, the day before her dead body was found. First, she attempted to withdraw £100 and it failed. She then attempted to withdraw £50 and this also failed. There wasn't enough money in her account for these transactions. Why was Annie in Glasgow Central Station? As I explained previously, Glasgow's the west of Scotland, and Annie lived in the east in Edinburgh. One possibility is that if she was travelling to Prestwick, then she was doing this by train from Glasgow. However, it's also possible to make this journey from Edinburgh. So why travel to the other side of the central belt of Scotland? That's a mystery. Was she visiting someone? Had she been in Glasgow the night before? In Edinburgh, Annie was living in the Linton Court apartments. These are serviced apartment blocks where you have your own room, but you share a kitchen and a bathroom. Annie was here to study English and she had fallen in love with Scotland. During her time in Scotland, she'd made many friends. She was an outgoing, sociable, happy person who enjoyed the company of others. Annie was also known as someone who liked to play by the rules. And when one of the girls that she was sharing the apartments with tried to break the rules and sneak a boyfriend back, Annie was quick to point out this was against tenancy rules. This led to a little tension between the two, but nothing serious. Annie worked on the Royal Mile in Edinburgh, and if you're not familiar, it's the central main road that runs through Scotland's capital. It has many shops, restaurants, cafes, and it offers access to a fantastic view of Edinburgh Castle and some of Edinburgh's greatest sights. Her job was in the hotel industry, working as a receptionist. The two failed withdrawals from the bank the day before the discovery on the beach were carried out at 3:15 on the Saturday afternoon, 3rd December. Annie's next known movements are captured on CCTV from later that day, and they provide something of a timeline of her activities. Before I get to that, let's revisit the ruling on Annie's death. Those 3 words. No suspicious circumstances. The definition of this, given by Scottish law, is that a death is suspicious if it is unexpected and circumstances or cause are medically or legally unexplained. Normally, this occurs in the context of medical care, suicide, or suspected criminal activity. Let's just see if, as we go through and we unfold the story of Annie. Let's just see if there were no suspicious circumstances. So the CCTV. Before I get to what they actually show, frustratingly, what they provide may actually be incorrect. Whilst the two images that I'm about to describe to you of Annie are absolutely her, the timings might be questionable. Here is what is seen. Annie is captured on CCTV walking from the train station at Prestwick over the walkway which connects to the airport. So the train station was built to service the airport traffic, and so like in lots of major airports, the train station essentially becomes part of the building of the airport. So she's seen walking from the train station to the airport, which timing wise works out, because if we look at where she was in Central Station withdrawing money, if the next thing that we see of her is footage of her getting off the train at Prestwick and walking to the airport, that makes sense. That all works. In the second CCTV image, and it's from only a few moments later, she heads out of the airport terminal and she appears to be heading towards the car park. Why the car park? Was she meeting someone? Was she collecting something? When I said previously that the timings of the footage was wrong, this comes from an investigation carried out by a private source who questioned that Annie is seen on the walkway, as I described, in the first footage, and then seen in the second footage minutes later, according to the airport cameras. This journey from the walkway to the airport terminal, although it's not a massive distance, it would be almost impossible to complete for anyone in under a minute. And that's what the CCTV cameras say, that she managed to get from the walkway to the airport terminal within a minute. So that's questionable. That's very questionable. We all know airports. They're full of escalators, stairs, people with cases. They're not easy to navigate. They're not easy to get around quickly. And even though Annie is able, that journey from the walkway to outside to walk towards the car park would not have been possible in the time that the cameras say that it was. Why would Annie have been in Prestwick Airport? Well, one can assume to catch a flight. So there was a flight to Sweden that night at 6:30. Was Annie planning to be on this flight? Her family assumed that yes, she was intending to fly home, but they weren't sure. Annie had never told them that she was planning to come back. But why else would she ever be at the airport? I mean, it seems really obvious that she would be there to catch a flight, but she'd gone to the cash point that day. She had no available cash. Had she booked a ticket on a flight out of Prestwick Airport? No. So when the family looked further into it to see if anyone at all had heard of these plans, it turns out that Annie had actually booked an appointment with her hairdresser in Sweden for the Monday morning. So yeah, it's now looking possible that she was hoping that she would be on that Saturday evening flight out to Sweden. As I said, no ticket was ever booked. So was she planning a standby ticket? A last-minute booking? Is that why she was attempting to withdraw money? The biggest question here for me and in this investigation is, why did she leave the airport terminal and go to the car park? A theory is that perhaps she was trying to access another cash point just to check if there was any money available in her account to withdraw. This for me doesn't really hold up. There are no cash machines in that car park, so that's not a plausible reason. Did she go there for something else? The next CCTV footage shows Annie returning from the car park to the main airport building, and according to Annie's friend who looked at the footage, Annie looks angry. She says she recognises the look on Annie's face and she is not happy. Why? Was she supposed to meet someone who didn't show up? Did someone show up but not with what she wanted? Or was she meeting someone who had just arrived from a flight or who was planning to fly somewhere? We don't know. I'm left with the question of why the car park? Why is she angry? Who was she meeting? Or not meeting, as the case might be. Footage of the spot that Annie went to in the car park was never made available, and so those 3 minutes, and they're a vital 3 minutes, those 3 vital minutes in the last day of her life are unavailable. The timeline of Annie's last day is a mess. It's frustratingly a mess. The CCTV footage shows us some information, but nowhere near enough to piece together a narrative. A neighbour of Annie's from Edinburgh claims to have seen her that morning in her flat. But the time that she gives, the time that she says she saw Annie at, it doesn't add up with Annie trying to withdraw money at a cash point in Glasgow. It leaves her no time to have travelled between Edinburgh and Glasgow, which, if you did it by train, would take you at least an hour. So these two things just do not match up. So when all of this is questioned, when all of this points towards something investigating, it's too late. Police have declared the death not suspicious, and so no time is spent going through the train footage to work out where she was. No time is spent looking at evidence of what might have happened in that airport car park. As far as Scottish police are concerned, there's no case to be investigated here. So I was born and raised in Scotland, and I suppose when it's the case that you've been born and raised in something, you never really look too much at the justice system. Especially when you're young, you don't look at it. Maybe when you're older, you give it some more thought. I think in Scotland the police are looked at as tough, fearless leaders in some sort of policing system. These are the things I've always known. But like anything, there are failings. The Annie Borjesson case remains a huge problem for Scottish police. So many questions are still being asked. What could they have done differently? What could they have done on that day when her body was found before quickly ruling out no foul play? Why so quickly? Surely a body washing up on a beach at 8:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning warrants questions. Well, not in this case. On the ruling of possible suicide, her mother Gaia says, absolutely not. That wasn't her daughter. She asks, if she was going to commit suicide, why would Annie have paid her January rent up front? If she had been planning to kill herself, why was she already planning her next month in Scotland? Annie's case, which has been driven largely by her mother, has been the subject of debate in Scottish Parliament. Should police have done more? Was the question that was posed. The answer, yes. Alex Salmond, the then Minister for Scotland, sat down with Annie's mother and acknowledged that there were questions that needed to be answered. There were failings in the investigation of this case. So while it's all well and good to acknowledge that more should have been done, I ask the question, why wasn't more done? What's being hidden? What do we yet not know about Annie's death? What happened when she returned from that airport car park? What Annie does next when she gets back from that car park, no one can give an accurate answer for. She leaves the airport and she begins to walk towards Prestwick Town Centre. It's late afternoon. The sun is setting. It's -4 degrees. And Annie begins her journey on foot. The following morning, she will be found dead. In part 3 of The Body on the Beach. He walked his dog for a further 30 minutes down the promenade, and when he was making his way back, he noticed the figure still standing there. It hadn't moved 1 inch. It continued to stare at the water. There was no one else around, remembers the witness.